Outstanding work.
Right? I think the silhouette of DJU was one of those first ones too. Right. So very timely. Breaking news here from 24/7 Sports, Matt Zenitz. Ole Miss star running back Quinshon Judkins has informed the Rebel staff he plans to enter the transfer portal. That is incredibly interesting for the fact that Ole Miss has been a program and a team that we've seen really load up on some of the top portal talent, specifically off the top of my head on the defensive side of the football. We've looked at Ole Miss's schedule draw in the 2024 season and assumed that this is Lane Kiffin and that program going chips in, trying to make a run here. But then you lose a player like Judkins. Tom, is this how do you change your evaluation here of Judkins and of Ole Miss as we look at one of the SEC's top running backs over the last 2 seasons, potentially leaving the Rebels program?
He's a good player. I don't know how much it changes my opinion of Ole Miss next year. Like, it's one of those things where clearly, this is my read, you bring in all these guys in the portal, you're spreading some cash around to do so, and players on your current roster are saying, well, how much of that can I get? They go looking for it, and they're not going to get it, and now they're going to go get it somewhere else. I think that's probably what's happening here. I don't know if I'm Ole Miss. I'm looking to invest a ton of money into the running back position, especially in that offense, because as good as I think Judkins is, I think you can find a replacement. In fact, I think they probably already have that replacement on the roster. What will be interesting to see is what kind of market Judkins commands. God, I can't believe I'm talking this way about college football players, but it will be interesting to see what kind of market there is for him, because he's a talented player. There are going to be teams who feel that they need to upgrade at running back. And is there a team out there who maybe is a playoff contender, a conference title contender, who thinks that they're a running back away and therefore will have value at the position to pay what he's probably looking to get? Because I think in a vacuum, this is really no different than the NFL, where I don't know how much money college programs, I think running backs matter more in college than they do in the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't think that the market value is going to be like, like if a quarterback, if we can go off of what Matt Rule's saying, if quarterback's getting $1.5 to $2 million, I don't think running backs are getting $1 million. I don't think they're, I think you're.
I think like a really good running back is probably getting like $300 to $350.
Yeah. Like if you can get $500,000 as a running back, I feel like you've done very, very, very well.
That's an elite number for a running back. Now, here's the thing. There's no long-term deals in college football, right? So that's one of the reasons they don't get paid in the NFL, because the NFL, chews them up, spits them out. I wouldn't pay a running back in the NFL. I probably wouldn't pay crazy money for a running back in college, but it is just a one-year deal. So if you're confident that Judkins is going to run hard and play hard for you in all the games you need to play, maybe you pay him. I think with Ole Miss, though, and a couple of these schools that really attack the portal early, I think we hear the sounds of some brakes screeching a little bit. And that is the 2-time transfer rule. Ole Miss already had a lot of transfers on their roster. And a lot of these teams were operating under the assumption that those players didn't have any leverage because they couldn't go anywhere. So if you jumped out and you spent a boatload of money before the 2-time transfer rule came down, so you're kind of pot committed to all those kids you just bought. And then you got guys on your roster who are like, hey, what about me? Because now I got leverage again. I can go somewhere else, right? My negotiation just changed. Like, I know there were schools who thought Dart was going to hop in. So Ole Miss might have just had to put out a Dart fire. And, like, at some point, maybe they don't have enough, like there's probably other guys on their roster who transferred in, who Ole Miss likes, who aren't going pro yet, who they've had to re-up, and somebody, like, not everybody can get paid.
Gosh.
I don't think Dart's going anywhere, by the way. Like, that was like 2 weeks before the Cotton Bowl, whatever that was.
Yeah.
I'm still with Tom. Like, I can't believe we're talking about players this way. And it does bring to the attention that they have more leverage than NFL players, because there's no security in most of these deals with, you're going to lock a guy in, he could leave at any time. I think this, and again, to echo what Tom said, we've seen our sport, college football, become more and more like the NFL, and that includes the business aspect of it too. So as it pertains to Quinshon Judkins, I think there's a very clear number you're willing to pay for a running back. And if you lose some of that production and maybe it's a sliver less of the upside, you're like, okay, fine, we can replace that position. But did you seem to say that running backs mean more in college than the NFL?
I think so. Yeah.
Slightly more.
Yeah.
You know, but I still don't think it's a game changer where you're like, we cannot lose this guy at any cost.
Yeah, I think with a great running back in college, you could compete for a conference title if that's the focus of your offense. I don't think you can win a national title with a running back is the focus of your offense in the college level.
Quinshon Judkins is a great running back at the college level.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that's system. I think that he is I think he's a really, really special running back.
But if you go look at the first year of Kiffin, what was that, 3 years ago when they had two running back system, their numbers were pretty significant. Like they still were up there among the leading rushing teams in the SEC. So I do think as much as sometimes we think of Lane Kiffin being a finesse, passing guy, he's still pretty physical along the run game.
I think more about Kiffin in terms of scheme. I think we've seen him adapt to, the personnel that he has. And I don't pencil him in necessarily as finesse, but for Judkins, he walked into a running back room that had Zach Evans, former blue chip prospect, Ulysses Bentley IV, who had been really, really good at SMU. And he was a true freshman, and he ended up being the workhorse. Like he ended up being the alpha in that room. And I think that was, talking to some people who did know him from high school, I think he's a special player. And to your point, Bud, if Ole Miss is making a financial decision that we're just not going to pay because we still think that, having edge rushers, being able to bolster that defense, being able to hang on to Jackson Dart, that's going to get us in a better position to make the college football playoff. I'm not going to argue with that, but I do think that if you are a team with the resources available to get into a bidding war for one of the top running backs in college football, I think the addition of Judkins can be something that can level you up in, like if you were the 5th best team in the conference, the addition of Judkins, if you've got enough other pieces around, could make you like the 4th or 3rd best team in a conference.
Yeah.
Where would he fit?
I mean, look at the impact Cody Schrader had on Mizzou.
Yeah. That was the work
coming from D2.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly it.
Right.
They didn't go to the portal and pay a couple million for him. They just said, hey, look at this kid from Truman State. Let's try him out.
And again, like if you're confident that he's cool with you running him, 200 times, right? Like he missed some games this year.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm signing him to a big deal, I want to know why. Because I'm serious.
I know.
Like, is he a guy who cares? Because, you could sign a running back to a big deal. He's what? 1 year away from getting drafted?
Yeah.
He's already going to get drafted based on his tape. What's to stop him from taking the check? And, we've seen guys do this. Those hamstrings injuries, they do linger. So, look, I think he's a stud back. He's already got a lot of mileage on the legs. So,
buyer beware, Bud Elliott.
At that position.
This one stood out to me in terms of a portal announcement because 1 year ago, when former Kent State wide receiver Dante Cephas announces that he's going to Penn State, wow, nice. This will be a thing that unlocks Penn State's offense. It didn't happen. Not like we thought it might. So Julian Fleming, who's played a lot of football at Ohio State, at times has come up with a lot of big catches. You understand why he was a blue chip coming out of high school. With him going to Penn State, I mean, can we play it back? Wow, Julian Fleming, this is the thing that unlocks the Penn State offense. I mean, Tom, does this move the needle for you at all when looking at what Drew Aller's got to throw to in terms of pass catchers in 24?
I haven't dug too far into this yet. I was planning on maybe writing something about it this afternoon, but I think he's a talent upgrade over what they had in that room last year. I don't know if he solves the problems that they have. Like Julian Fleming, for everything he did at Ohio State, and he was never the top guy. He was always like, the 3rd or 4th guy there because of who they had ahead of him. But he wasn't like a deep threat. Like he was very much a, like a short slant kind of curl crossing route kind of guy over the middle, which is valuable to have. But from what I have seen of him and what I've looked at with the numbers, he doesn't strike me as the deep ball threat, which is what Penn State seriously lacked this year. But it'll also be interesting to see how he molds into that offense now that they've brought in Andy Kotelnicki from Kansas and what that offense is going to look like. So I think that, yes, this is a good move for Penn State. Yes, this is an upgrade for Penn State. I don't think it solves all their problems, though. Like, I think that there's still a lot of work that they need to do in their passing game and with their receiver core. And maybe, you know, some of the guys they have in there that didn't really get on the field this year and some of the guys coming in, maybe those end up being those guys, because Penn State has had them in recent years. But it's still, to me, it's not like oh, wow, this will fix everything now.
I don't really know what Kotelnicki's offense looks like with a big armed quarterback in it. Right. Like I know in the group chat we had discussed like some of the stuff they've been running is a better fit for Penn State's other QB.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What's his name? Pagula.
Pagula. Yep.
But at the same time, like, we really haven't seen him with like a top NFL quarterback type prospect, unless you think Jalen Daniels is that. And I think he's good, but not like a cannon necessarily. So I don't really know what it's going to look like. It's an offense that's evolved quite a bit. Like everybody borrows from each other in college football, and they borrowed heavily from Coastal Carolina after they played them in 2020. So like some of those elements started popping up, which is smart because Chadwell's offense kind of scores almost everywhere it goes. So yeah, good idea. But like I think it's an offense that probably has the ability to adapt, and Fleming probably helps him.
Good blocker for the screen game.
Yeah, he's a very good blocker.
Like we're talking about the Kansas offense, which
not exactly the top priority I'm looking for in a receiver, but he is a very good blocker.
I'm sure Penn State fans would be just thrilled to hear that. Oh, he's a great blocker. That's awesome. No, they need the explosive big play receiver.
Yeah, I think Julian is a good player within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. I have yet to see him prove anything past that yet.
Yeah, I think Andy Kotelnicki is the solution, not a receiver.
Fleming.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's going to be, and then hopefully that collectively makes everybody better.
Any other big transfer portal stuff that you've had your eyes on recently?
I do think Texas A&M getting Nick Scouten to visit over Florida State is a big deal for A&M and a big deal for Florida State.
That's the former Purdue
defensive end.
Yeah. Purdue defensive end, very, very good. The shining star on a Purdue defense that was struggling a little bit at times this season. So he is not going to visit Florida State?
The thought is that might be a one-visit recruitment, and Florida State lost on getting the visit to Texas A&M. So we talked yesterday, like Mike Norvell is going to have to take a look, see if this defensive staff is good enough at recruiting to get to where Florida State fans expect him to take the program, which is one that competes for national titles, not just SEC titles. I'm very skeptical of that, as I've been for like 3 years. So we'll see. I do think playing Georgia in the Orange Bowl, by the way, probably helps Norvell some. Like seeing the quality of player you need to sign out of high school, not the portal. They're not doing that. So.
Yeah, no, agree. And if this signing class was supposed to be the one, and there are good pieces, but on some of the
big pieces, not good big people pieces. Yeah,
if they kept losing on some of the big chips down the stretch in that cycle, Florida State just kept falling and not being able to finish the deal. So
for the third year in a row.
Yeah, I think they get outworked too. So it's a good place to work.
Damn.
I'm sorry. I think Miami staff works harder.
Yeah, I was going to say there's another ACC staff in the state of Florida who the word on the street is like, man, you get really, really overworked and run into the ground, and guess what? They land big dogs and they have higher recruiting rankings.
Yeah, they don't use the ACC excuse.